Welcome everybody to a very exciting night of racing. It's the penultimate even event of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy here from the Silverstone International Circuit, and we are in for two thrilling races with the championship getting down to the real business end now. 6 drivers still mathematically could lift the inaugural British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy crown. 3 of those drivers in particular that we're really going to be shining a spotlight on tonight as they all try to position themselves in order to try and win the championship next week at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit there. My name is Andy McEwen up here in the comms box, ready to talk you through 2 20-minute races here around the high-speed, the wide-open Silverstone International Circuit, a circuit that the British Formula 4 Championship has not yet competed at, but it was scheduled to be racing here for the first time later on in the season, and it is a layout that doesn't get a huge amount of use, at least for high-profile events. It's extensively used for club racing here in the UK, and week in, week out produces some proper Silverstone slipstreaming battles. There are lots of places you can overtake. There are lots of opportunities to use that toe and pull yourself ahead of the drivers in front of you, and it really should be perfectly suited for these Dallara Formula 3 cars that we're using for the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy, and I think we're in for 2 really, really action-packed races. We have already enjoyed plenty of incredible racing previously in the season, and that includes very much so the pair of races that we had at Snetterton a week ago, where yet again Luke Browning and Chris Lullen were both engaged in this titanic battle for the championship lead. They went into that weekend pretty close on points, but it was a disappointing weekend in the end for Luke Browning. Chris Lullen, his teammate, able to extend that margin despite the fact that Browning won the first race. Luke Browning led his teammate Chris Lullen in a Fortec 1-2 in race 1 at Snetterton, with Marion Kramers in 3rd position to keep himself in championship contention. Zane Maloney was 4th, and Zach O'Sullivan, 3rd place in the championship, was in 5th position. So for Zach, he finished behind the 2 Fortec drivers that were also ahead of him in the points. That meant that race 2 was going to be absolutely critical for Zach O'Sullivan, and indeed race 2 it looked as if he was going to take some big points out of them, but late drama for Zach. He was involved in some contact with James Headley whilst they were battling for a podium position. That allowed Chris Lullen to take the victory in race number 2, so it was a win apiece for the Fortec drivers by this point. The difference in race 2 though was that Luke Browning languished down in 9th position, so Chris Lullen was able to extend that championship lead pretty significantly. Abby Pulling joined Chris on the podium for the first time that she'd been on the podium this season, and the same for Luke Whitehead, who was a privateer making his first appearance in the championship. It was only his 2nd ever race in the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy, and he got himself on to the podium in 3rd. Seb Priya was 4th, and Jonathan Hoggard was in 5th. Zach O'Sullivan didn't finish the race, and to add insult to injury, he was subsequently awarded a 5-second penalty for race 1 as well, which is why he found himself down in 5th for that race. So it really was a bit of a night to forget, honestly, for Zach O'Sullivan. It means that arriving here at Silverstone, he is still in contention for the championship. He's 3rd in the points. It's looking more and more likely to be one of those 2 Fortec drivers that lifts the crown. Chris Lullen arrives at Silverstone on 153 points. He is 19 clear of his teammate Luke Browning, which is just about the biggest championship lead that either of those 2 drivers have had all season long. It really has been nip and tuck. Certainly at the end of each race night, they both seemed able to come out pretty much equal on points. Arriving here, though, at this penultimate race night of the season, 19 points in it between the top 2. Zach O'Sullivan is then that little step further back on 107 points, so he's just less than 50 points off the championship lead. It's still doable with 25 points available for a race win, and there are 4 races still to go, so a maximum of 100 points still on the table. But Zach really needs to try and win at least one, preferably both of the races tonight at Silverstone to start narrowing that margin. Also in contention are Nico Verone, Marion Kramers and Jonathan Hoggard. So we've got 3 Fortec drivers, 2 Carlin drivers, and Nico Verone, who is the top privateer, all still mathematically fighting for the championship. But the real interest, I think, with those drivers is going to be seeing who comes home in 4th place, because those 3, 4th, 5th and 6th in the championship, are separated by just 11 points. Then there's another step back to Zane Maloney, Abby Pulling, Seb Priya and Alexei Nesov, who are covered by just 6 points in their scrap for 7th place in the championship. It's very, very tight. wherever you look, really, up and down the point standings as we arrive here at Silverstone. And so every position on track, regardless of whether it's a battle that involves one of the top three in the points, still have some championship significance, as those drivers who realistically are out of the championship equation now still look to try and gain championship positions in the final few races of the season. So the Silverstone International Circuit then is a place that maybe some of you won't be all that familiar with, but someone who has completed a few laps around this place virtually and I would imagine in real life is our regular clerk of the course, Dan Blake, who joins me for his weekly pre-race chat. Dan, this Silverstone International Circuit, it's an interesting one, isn't it? It's very, very fast. You have to be quite committed around here, but it does, generally speaking, produce some pretty entertaining racing.
Hello, Andy. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I've raced this one in real life as well as in the sim. I raced here, I think it was 2016 in the Hyundai Coupe Cup, and I've also raced on the track as part of the Birkett 6-hour race as well, which incorporates both layouts. And it's interesting because we see the international circuit where you have the link. There is quite a nasty bump there as well, which can unsettle the car, but it is a very fast circuit and momentum based as well because you've got the long straights. And also something for the drivers to watch out for today as well is on the link going into the Hangar Straight, if they go wide, they will get an iRacing slow down penalty, which I think may produce a factor or two in today's racing.
Yeah, exactly. That the track limits penalties in iRacing can, for outsiders, I think, myself included, be a little hard to understand sometimes because we see drivers, you're telling us about the link, which was the right-hander that Luke Browning, who we just rode on board with, just went through, and yet this right-hander at the other end of the straight, how much runoff area they can use there, but it's different rules for different corners. It's not supposed to be exactly the same as it would be in real life, but the drivers are all made aware, aren't they, Dan? Before they step out onto the track, they all figure out where they can get away with it, where they can't get away with it, and at the end of the day, it's the same for everybody.
Exactly, rather than going with the iRacing instant point system as well, which works on a no-fault basis, so you can actually be victimised by that. What we do is we just race sort of there is no incident limit, but the drivers, obviously, any contacts, they let me know, I'll investigate them, and it's sort of self-governing, really, which I think is the best way for us to run in this championship in.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think generally speaking that's been going down pretty well so far this season. What are your thoughts then as we arrive here at Silverstone championship-wise, because things are starting to get quite interesting at the top of the points, aren't they? Chris Lulham's got this little bit of a margin now, 19 points. Dan, there are still 100 points left on the table. He hasn't won this yet, has he?
No, I think it's going to go probably right down to the wire at Brands Hatch GP, and that's going to be something that's going to be very interesting for not just us, but us, everyone watching, and all the drivers as well. As much as Chris Lulham probably would like to see it tonight, I think everyone else would just like to see it go on to that last meeting. But I think it's going to be a very tough job for Chris Lulham to seal it tonight. But if he does seal it tonight, it means he would have had a fantastic evening and probably would deserve it.
Yes, the very simple mathematics, basically, he needs to have more than a 50-point cushion over everybody else after tonight's two races. So if he's 51 points ahead of the second-place driver going to Brands Hatch next week, will have provisionally sealed the deal, 2 races to spare, but he's only 19 points clear now, so it will take quite a Herculean effort, I think, for him to manage to do that tonight. Stranger things have happened, though. You never know what is around the corner. Now, Dan, I'm not one to generate false lines where maybe they don't necessarily exist, but I am quite interested in an incident that you pointed out, actually, in the break between last week's racing and tonight's racing. Something we didn't actually pick up on the stream, I don't think, but there was some contact between those top 3 in the championship at Snetterton, wasn't there? Lulham, Browning and O'Sullivan. Now, the reason we didn't make a big deal of it is because, honestly, it wasn't a big deal. It was contact that was sort of born out of some netcode issues. There was no malice, no penalties were applied at all. That is an interesting little caveat, I think, coming into tonight's 2 races. If any one of those drivers, in particular, I suppose Luke Browning, the one who came off worse from it, might feel a bit aggrieved. Now, maybe that red mist might start to descend. It was an interesting little incident, that, wasn't it, at Snetterton? Just you were the one that brought it to my attention. Just talk us all through what happened.
Yeah, Andy, obviously, as my clerk of the course, I go through the race videos, and obviously if the drivers come to me with any instance they're looking at, I'll go through it. And it was one that wasn't raised by any of the drivers. I just happened to notice it as I was going through the first lap of the second race. What happened was they were going down towards Agostini, and it was O'Sullivan and Lulham going side by side, there was a little bit of what we call netcode contact, which pushed Lulham loose, and then his car was sort of squirming around at the rear, and Luke Browning unfortunately had a collision with him, which sent him round, and he lost quite a bit of time at that, and had to go into the pits as well for a faster pair under the safety car, which was deployed for a later incident on the track as well. But as you say, it's an interesting dynamic that those top three had a little bit of a skirmish, and obviously with I think the visors be coming down a bit more now as well, because we are at the business end of the season. But just to say, there has been a little bit already between those three drivers, of course, completely unmalicious. It was just one of those things, but they're already getting pretty close together as it is at Snetterton.
Yeah, exactly. And add to that the fact that two of those drivers are teammates, Lulham and Browning. How does that alter this dynamic? Because if you're Lulham and you're going head-to-head with Zach O'Sullivan, who races for an opposition team, Carlin, it's pretty cut and dry. You don't leave him any space. You do whatever it takes to beat him. If that means that you chop his nose off into a corner or make a late dive, then so be it. You're fighting for a championship. How does that change when Chris Lulham is going wheel-to-wheel with his teammate, Luke Browning? Not only his teammate in the iRacing Trophy, but also, of course, a driver that he has a Fortec relationship in the real world too. Do you have to change your style even in these final few rounds of the championship?
I think to some extent you do, but they're both racers, and I know they both get on extremely well. So anything that's happened so far, there's been no bad blood or animosity, and that's the way you've got to hope it continues. But I do think as we get to the later rounds, maybe especially next week, shall I say, at Brands Hatch, maybe the sort of they won't be so cooperative with each other. But I think at the moment they're still sort of working not together as such, but they're not in a position where they're causing each other problems, is probably the best way to put it. But I think once we get down to that final meeting and it's all on the line, the battle lines could change a little bit there.
That final race meeting on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit next Monday night, the 8th of June, 7:30 in the evening. You don't want to miss it, because I'm pretty sure that for all this talk about Lulham maybe being able to wrap it up tonight, I really don't think that's going to happen. I'm pretty sure that it's going to go right down to the wire. Worth noting as well, everybody, if you are fans of the British Formula 4 Championship and the rest of the TOCA package on which they race, there has been a bit of news today that was released, not a change of date as such, but the Brands Hatch circuit, which of course hosts 2 rounds of the British Touring Car Championship, which on that package also includes the British Formula 4 Championship. They've just switched the around in which they're going to race at the track. So the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, whilst it will still be the venue for our season finale in the iRacing Trophy, the real World Championship will now actually wrap up on the Indy circuit at Brands Hatch, and they've brought forward the Grand Prix circuit event to the 8th 9th of August. So, so 8th 9th of August for the Brands Hatch Grand Prix meeting, 14th, 15th of November now, for the Brands Indy Real World British Formula 4 Championship event. So interesting little change around there in the real world, but we're very much looking forward to heading to the majestic Grand Prix circuit next time out. Well, speaking of Grand Prix circuits though, the Silverstone circuit is of course the host of the British Grand Prix these days. These runners have seen some truly historic moments occur around this favourite bit of tarmac over the decades. What story will they have to tell tonight, I wonder, as we prepare to move into qualifying now for the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. Practice almost complete for what it's worth. It's Lulham and Browning at the top of the tree in practice. Not a huge surprise there, really. Lulham is quicker than Browning, but only by 7/100ths of a second. Zach O'Sullivan is 4th. Nico Voronek is 4th in the championship, is down in 11th place. Marion Kramer's 5th in the championship, 6th in practice. And Jonathan Hoggard, who is the last of those 6 drivers still in contention for the title, he is in 8th position in the practice session right now. But qualifying about to get underway. The checkered flag has flown on practice. Dan Blake, before you disappear to partake in your role as clerk of the course, give us one more pole position prediction. Who do you reckon is going to get the pole today?
I'm going to go Browning. I think, although Lulham's been pretty quick so far, I think Browning might just edge it, but we'll see.
Well, you're probably not going to be far wrong, let's be honest. Those two have kind of been the pace setters, and Luke Browning has been the qualifying king. Lulham may have done better out of the races so far this season. Browning has had by far the better record in qualifying, more pole positions than anybody else, so he will be tough to beat. Thanks, Dan. Anyway, we'll catch up with you maybe later on in the night, but for now we move into the business of qualifying. It is a 10-minute session. The drivers are entitled to just 4 flying laps, though, so within that 10 minutes. They can go out on track whenever they like, but only 4 laps are allowed. And remember, if you exceed the track limits on any of your flying laps, then that lap is instantly disallowed. So we quite often see drivers towards the end of the session that have been out there for a while and haven't actually set a lap time. That's probably because they've been exceeding track limits, but that lap is lost forever. You don't get to add another lap on and still get 4 clean goes at it. If you exceed track limits, tough, that's it, that lap has gone. So they have to be careful, especially around a circuit like this one, where it's so tempting to run a bit wide, use those tarmac runoff areas, because it is a more forgiving layout than, say, Alton Park or Brands Hatch, for example, where running wide will probably see you go into the gravel at best, if not into a tyre barrier. Here, as you can see, as we ride on board with James Headley through Stowe Corner, there are acres of tarmac runoff area before you even start thinking about running across the grass. So it is tempting if you're carrying a bit too much speed through, say, the exit of this next right-hander club corner. Whoops, James Headley, forget about carrying too much speed, a bit too heavy with the right foot there as he turned out of the left-hander just at the start of that club complex. As if you were to run a bit too wide, as Headley is doing here, I would argue, into club corner, you will get that lap time disallowed. So qualifying then getting underway, drivers out onto their first flying laps now, and follow Zach O'Sullivan, 3rd place in the championship, in desperate need of some good results here, and his best way to start his night really would be with pole position. If he can beat those Fortec drivers to the pole position, it's not worth any extra points, but it's worth track position. And in these high downforce slicks and wings single-seaters, even around a circuit like this one where it is possible to overtake, track position is still key. Already, though, times coming in from other drivers. Alex Connor so far is the fastest on a 59.77. Marion Kramer second, Abby Pulling third, but we will see them go quicker than that. Bart Horston now goes to the top of the tree. Bart Horston is a new name to the championship. He's a newcomer racing for Arden here tonight, so we welcome Bart Horston to the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. Zach O'Sullivan will come across the start-finish line. He will now try to beat Luke Browning's time of 59.35, and he cannot. It's a 59.66, only 3/10 off, but that's enough to knock him down onto the outside of row number 2. So in order after one flying lap then for most of the drivers is Browning on pole, Nessov is second, Bart Horston third, straight on the pace then in his first appearance in the championship. James Headley has gone 4th, and Zach O'Sullivan into 5th position. We're yet to see the best from Chris Lullum. He's down in 12th place, and lots of drivers such as Luke Whitehead, podium finisher last time, haven't set a time. Although, as I say that, Whitehead goes through and knocks James Headley off the second row. He goes 4th, make that 5th because Nico Verona goes 2nd. In fact, make that 6th because Alex Connor goes 5th. It's all changing again within the top 3 or 4 places. Luke Browning comes out of club corner. Can he improve on his already good pole position time? Yes, he can, and it's just as well because Bart Horston had just beaten him to pole position, but Browning goes quicker again. He was about a quarter of a second quicker than Horston. Rafa Martins now slots in between them. The time's coming in thick and fast here. Browning on pole, Martin second. Horston was third, but Zach O'Sullivan improves and goes third quickest now. Horston down to 4th, and Nico Verone rounding out the top 5. Now, what is going on with Chris Lullum? Chris Lullum is still down in 14th. He's on his 3rd lap of the session now. And for some reason, we are not seeing the pace from our championship leader that you would expect. We're watching him now. The number 20 car for Fortec Motorsport drops down the Vale into the final left, and then the two double apex right-hander, I suppose, through club corner. You can see there they're allowed to use that extra bit of runoff area through the centre of club. He comes across the line then, and what is the time? It is second quickest for Chris Lullum. He is 3/100ths of a second slower than his teammate Luke Browning, but he is at least back on the front row of the grid with another chance to improve still in the session. Browning then on pole, Lullum second, Rafa Martins is third, Marion Kramer's 4th now, and Nico Verone into 5th. That has all knocked Zach O'Sullivan down to 8th position because Alexei Nessov has just improved from outside the top 10 to move into 3rd position. Pulling we're following here now. I'll be pulling as the 14th fastest time at the moment. Right on board with her out of the link down the hanger straight. More improvements coming in further back, but Luke Browning has improved again. In fact, his pole position time is now a 58.96. That is 1.5 of a second quicker than his teammate Lullum. So it looks as though Dan Blake's pick for pole position might be pretty accurate, although picking the man that's been on pole position almost every week, I suppose, is not the most challenging of predictions to make, but Browning is delivering on his potential. Lullum goes quicker again, though, stays in second place, but he's now within 1/10 of pole position, 8/100ths of a second behind Luke Browning. What can Abby Pulling do? She will come across the line and improve to 7th, and that was her final lap of the session. Marion Kramers has been dropped down to 8th position now. Rafa Martin, one of the big losers here, because Zach O'Sullivan has improved again. O'Sullivan goes 4th quickest, so Zach O'Sullivan gets himself onto the second row of the grid. Chris Lullum has also completed the session. We're hearing Luke Browning's in the pit lane. Jonathan Hoggard is still on a flying lap, though, and boy, does he need to improve. Remember, Jonathan is 6th in the championship, just about by the skin of his teeth, still in championship contention, but he's 14th on the grid at the moment. He comes through to finish his final lap of the session, and it improves, but only slightly. He goes from 14th to 10th, and Jonathan Hoggard will have some work to do in that first race to try and gain some points back on those in front of him in the championship. Horatio Fitzsimon, one of the last drivers still going. He's only on his second lap of the session, actually, Horatio, down in 17th place. So he was a latecomer into the session, but of course, that 10-minute window gives you ample time to get 4 laps in. You don't have to go hell for leather straight away. Some drivers like to sit in the garage for a while, watch the other times come in, see what the target time is going to be. Christian Mansell and Rafa Villagomez, for example, have only just left the pit lane. Rafa Villagomez is on his outlaps. This is something we haven't seen a huge amount of so far this season, but some drivers now at Silverstone, they realise that they don't have to go out straight away, and sometimes it's better to know what the target time is before you go out there and get distracted and have to really start focusing on your lap times. Counting then on provisional pole by 8/100ths of a second over Chris Lullum in second and Alexei Nesov is third, so the top 3 covered by 1/10 of a second. Zach O'Sullivan is 4th, Bart Horston is 5th, Rafa Martin 6th, Abby Pulling 7th, Marion Kramers is down in 8th, so he, like Hoggard, they're 5th and 6th respectively in the championship, both a little bit off the pace in qualifying. Nico Verone as well, 4th in the championship, he's only 9th on the grid, and Hoggard 10th, so those 3 could be 3 to watch. Kramers 8th, Verone 9th, and Hoggard in 10th place. Fitzsimon goes 15th. There is Matthias Zagazeta going through the link. Zagazeta is on what should be his final lap of the session, but he's all the way down in first place and a second and a half off the pace. One driver we haven't mentioned tonight is Zane Maloney. Now, Zane has been a regular runner in the championship, still looking for his first victory. He won't get it tonight either because, unfortunately, he's travelling tonight. He's not able to race with us. We're anticipating that he'll be back for the championship decider next time at Brands Hatch, but the reigning British Formula 4 champion, unfortunately, not able to make it tonight. So hopefully he's been able to stop on his journey at some point and check in with some of the action going on tonight. Zagazeta comes through to complete his 4th lap of the session then, and no improvement, stays 21st. Christian Mansell backed off as well, so the only driver now that could still improve is Rafa Villagomez. He almost certainly will improve because he is the slowest driver in the session. He's the only one not yet to have set a lap time, and he still has 1 minute and 45 left to go, so he'll struggle to get all 4 laps in. I think he might have left it just a touch too late, but he's coming through towards the completion of his second lap of the session. No, his first one, we believe, was invalidated because of track limits. So that was what I was saying earlier on. Especially if you're going to go with this tactic of waiting till the end of the session, you really can't afford for either of your first couple of laps to be disallowed, because then you're really under the thumb. He's got time probably for 2 more laps, so he should actually just get them all in. That lap time, though, is 1 minute 0.47, which is the slowest time. So all 22 drivers have now set a time. Gomez still propping up the timing sheets at the moment. It's up into Lynch, that tight right-hander, then through the link. The Grand Prix circuit goes 180 degrees to the left through the loop, but we head through the left-hand kink and then drop steeply downhill through the right-hander at the link, down the hanger straight. It's a perfect view of the hanger straight and Stowe corner for Rafa Villagomez. He's just got no one around him because this is, of course, a lone qualifying session. So they all go out there at the same time. They all basically have the track to themselves on their own screen. They don't have to worry about any of the traffic. Of course, changes when we get into the race in a few minutes' time. Gomez doesn't make friends with the apex there through the left-hander at club, through the double apex right-hander now, back past the Silverstone wing, and onto his final lap of the session. His penultimate lap is good enough for an improvement. He goes from 22nd to 20th. Rafa Villagomez has one more shot now to try and make more significant improvements. He should get to the end of this lap, I reckon, because he started it before the checkered flag came out. Checkered flag goes out now, so the session's over. In fact, no, you're not allowed to complete the session. That is it. The session is complete. So Zagazeta Rafa Gomez, will stay in 20th, but we can have a look at how the rest of the grid lines up. And it is the top two in the championship who share the front row. It's once again an all-4-tech affair at the front of the grid. Luke Browning ahead of the championship leader, Chris Lullum. They share the front row of the grid. Alexei Nesov is on row 2 with Zach O'Sullivan, who has to start beating those 4-tech drivers, and he has to start doing it now. Bart Horston, and Rafa Martin's on row 3. Impressive effort that for Horston. Abby Pulling has Marin Kramers alongside her on row 4. Then Nico Verone and Jonathan Hoggard share the 5th row of the grid. Then it is Jaden Ojeda and Alex Connor on row 6. Seb Prio and Luke Whitehead make up the 7th row. Then Horatio Fitzsimon and Christian Mansell on row 8. James Headley and Nathan de Villiers on the 9th row together. Then Fred Lubin and Rafael Villagomez round out the top 20 with Nico Pino and Matthias Zagazeta at the back of the grid. So 19 points the difference. 4 races to go. 100 points still on the table. And Luke Browning and Chris Lullum as inseparable as ever. They share the front row of the grid. On our right is number 11, Luke Browning. On the left, number 20, Chris Lullum. The revs are starting to rise. We're ready to go racing. Race 1 of the night for the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy on the Silverstone International Circuit bursts into life, and it's a good start by Chris Lullum. He is away quicker than his teammate Luke Browning, and he has the inside line for Abby Corners, and the championship leader will go through into turn 1. Browning has to try and fight back as soon as he can, and he does. They run wheel to wheel through Farm Curve into the first braking zone at Village, though, and it will still be Lullum in front. Browning second. Round the outside goes Alexei Nesov. He's dicing with Zach O'Sullivan, who was trying to take third place away. Has the Carlin driver gone through? Yes, he has. O'Sullivan into third, and there's a spin. There's a spin for Rafa Martins. That's a shame. No, it was no Horston, I think, maybe that went round. So Bar Horston going around, going through the link, and there is a safety car being thrown as the 4-tech drivers at the front weaving around already to try and get temperature into their tyres. Fred Lubin has fast-tracked to the pit lane, I'm afraid. Bart Horston losing 13 places. I'm pretty sure he was the first driver that spun there. It was definitely a red car that went around going out of the link. We're going to see a replay here. Oh, dearie me. And yes, as others scattered for in avoidance behind, that is what has taken Fred Lubin out of the race. And others were delayed as well. Hoggard was involved in that. He's dropped down to 19th place now. Jaden Ojeda has dropped 9 positions as well. He's into 20th. Here's Alex Connor's view of it. He's right behind Abby Pulling, just ahead of Nico Verone. Dropped down the hill. Oh, and no, that was a separate incident there, wasn't it? Was that Verone into the back of Connor, possibly? I assumed that they were going off in avoidance of the initial spin, but no, Alex Connor definitely tipped into zone rotation there, going through the link. James Headley here, we're seeing how he got involved in that. Just let's go, unfortunately, for James Headley. He's headed for the pit lane now as well. So too Hoggard and Ojeda. So along with Fred Lubin, the 4 drivers that immediately are having to make use of a fast repair, which means that they can get those cars repaired quickly. You'll be surprised to hear. They'll get back out on track before too much longer. And because there's a safety car out, they should be able to get back on track without losing a lap. So lots of drivers in strife, unfortunately, on the opening lap here at Silverstone. James Headley there we're seeing limping into the pit lane. That's live footage of him going down the Silverstone pit lane. This is live footage, though, of Chris Lullum, the race leader. What a pivotal start that was. Luke Browning did all the hard work in qualifying. He pipped his teammate to pole position by the narrowest of margins. It was all undone before they even reached turn number 1. Chris Lullum was able to go through. So the order then, as we come through to the completion of lap number 2 behind the safety car, Chris Lullum leading, Luke Browning second, Zach O'Sullivan third. The top 3 in the championship, in championship order, run first, second and third in the race. So their objectives are pretty clear. Lullum needs to hold on to the lead, whilst Browning and O'Sullivan need to try and take it off him, and they will still have a good amount of time to do so once this safety car comes in, hopefully at the end of the next lap. Alexei Nesov is down to 4th, Rafa Martins up to 5th, and Marin Kramers also gained some ground. Marin Kramers, the man 5th in the championship, is now 6th in the race, having started in 8th. Abby Pulling, one of few drivers to still be in the same position she started in, so she is down in 8th position. Wait for the timer screen to update. Yes, 7th position for Abby Pulling, 8th Nico Verone, 9th Seb Prio, and 10th position for Luke Whitehead. Oh, lights out on the safety car. We'll be going racing this time. As it stands then, there would be 26 points between Chris Lullum and Luke Browning if we threw the checkered flag now. Thank goodness we're not going to do that, because that means we've got time for more great racing and time definitely for that championship equation to change. O'Sullivan would drop now to 56 points back. There will be 75 points still available after this race. So as it stands, all three of them would still be in contention. I don't know whether provisionally people like Hoggard and Verone might find themselves being knocked out of contention now. Verone's down in 8th. Hoggard, of course, having pitted, is down in 18th, and you only score points down to the top 10. So confirmation on that in a while, but certainly looking good as it stands for the championship leader, Chris Lulham. As I said, though, this is not over yet. The safety car will be heading into the pit lane this time around, where we'll get back to racing with probably just about 14 minutes or so still to go, maybe 15. And Chris Lulham trying to give the safety car driver a hurry up here. Of course, the drivers hate going around this slowly because they lose all of the temperature in the tyres, in the brakes, and these racing cars are not designed to run around at 50 or 60 miles an hour as they're doing so now. They're designed to go an awful lot quicker, which they will be momentarily because the pace car is about to head to the pit lane, and Chris Lulham needs to try and now execute a perfect safety car restart. They're not particularly bunched up. They now start to gather in behind the race leader, who is waiting and waiting and waiting, still hasn't accelerated. He now, though, becomes the control car, so as soon as Lulham decides to accelerate, which he does now, then the rest of them can do so behind. Through club they go, then on to the start of another lap. We're back to racing once again here at Silverstone, and Luke Browning needs to go on the attack immediately, and he's right in the toe. The slipstream is pretty sizable around this place, but it's also hard to run nose to tail through the high-speed corners. You saw it there, Browning in second place, just understeering wide of the apex through Abbey Corner. You want that slipstream down the straight, you don't want it through the corners, and of course it's a tricky balance to find if you want to try and overtake the driver in front, which rest assured Luke Browning wants to do, has to do really. He's 19 points behind already. As it stands, that gap would go out to 26 points, and with every race that goes by, he has fewer and fewer opportunities to start shrinking that points gap again. And into Stowe they go. Abby Pulling having a big dive up the inside of Marion Kramers. That was a good move, but she can't get the car stopped. Runs a bit wide. Kramers comes back side by side down to club corner. The next corner is a left-hander, which should have favoured Pulling, but Kramers gets over to the left to defend. Pulling tries the outside line. That risks leaving the door open for Verone, though, who sees the opportunity to pull off a pitch-perfect switchback manoeuvre. And next in line is Seb Prio, who would also quite like to get in on the act if he can. So Abby Pulling goes from gaining one to losing one through Stowe corner. She nearly loses another to Prio. She keeps running off the track like that. She runs wide through Abby. Prio's all over her as they head towards the braking zone. Verone's also up the inside of Kramers, though, who tries to turn in. Verone, though, has got the door open, and now he just needs to try and force his way through it down into the link. No, he can't do it. Prio is through. Where's Pulling gone? Abby Pulling is off the road. She's gone off the road, so Seb Prio was trying to get up the inside of her going into Village. There is Pulling. She must have had a spin then because she's dropped a long way back into 14th place. Oh, well, there was no contact, but she did have a spin just on that tighter line. Not more steering lock on, but you're still trying to get back to the throttle nice and early, and in the end it was too much steering lock and too much throttle for Pulling. She has a spin, drops to 14th. Verone, though, on a real tear, goes around the outside of Marion Kramers now, so Nico Verone moves himself into 6th position. I got a brief update before we went back to racing saying that the order they were in before would have meant that Hoggard was eliminated from championship contention, but Verone and Kramers very much still in it, while Verone is only helping his chances of staying in contention because he's gaining places hand over fist. He is, though, now 2 3/4 seconds behind the top 5, so we need to watch Nico Verone's lap times with interest to see whether or not he can catch the lead group. Speaking of lap times, fastest lap of the race belongs to Luke Browning in 2nd place. There he is, still chasing down his teammate Chris Lulham. He's no doubt benefiting from the slipstream, but Luke Browning, him closing in down that hanger straight into Stowe corner, but whilst he can stay close, he can't get close enough to actually make a move and go through. So Luke Browning sizing up his less experienced teammate Chris Lulham, but Chris maybe with a bit more iRacing experience, which definitely seems to have helped him out in this iRacing trophy. Lulham with a strange line out of club. I thought for a moment he might have had a forced slowdown penalty, but he's certainly losing ground. This is as close as Browning has been since the restart, but again, he can't carry the speed through Abbey Corner with the dirty air. Is he close enough to have a pop up the inside into Village? The answer is no, and Lulham will hang on, but that was maybe the first sign of a mistake for the race leader. So much pressure on this young man's shoulders. Chris Lulham has a lot of karting experience, but has never yet raced doesn't have much experience in Formula 4, I should say. He did, though, have a one-off British Formula 4 appearance at Silverstone last year, albeit on the national circuit, and bagged a best result of 5th place. So Lulham's limited single-seater experience around Silverstone has been pretty successful, but of course Browning has heaps more experience, closes in on the youngster going into Vale. Luke Browning, former Ginetta Junior racer, debuted in British Formula 4 last year with Richardson and won 2 races on his debut season. So Luke Browning, with that little bit more single-seater and racing experience in general, might that pay off in a toe-to-toe battle for race victory and for championship honours? He's closing again, and this time he might be tempted to have a go. Interestingly, he doesn't. He backs off. He brakes early. He didn't look to the inside. Are they still working together to try and get away from the rest of the pack? We've seen this from these two earlier on in the season. The Fortec drivers have really worked well as a team, and they've decided on multiple occasions not to race each other too hard, at least early in the race, in order to allow them to pull away from the rest of the pack. I really thought that might go out the window, though, in these final couple of nights of the season. Maybe not. Maybe they are still working together. These two aren't, though. Marion Kramers would probably wish that Seb Priaulx would work with him and not attack, but Seb Priaulx does not race for his team, doesn't really care where Marion Kramers comes in this race. He's just out for a good result, and he overtakes Marion going into Stowe Corner. Kramers, though, fights back again into Club, and Seb Priaulx will be very wary here, because far too often this year, Seb has been taken out of promising results due to the tiniest bit of wheel-to-wheel contact. He's leaving Kramers plenty of room, as Marion once again is back up the inside out of Club, has a go into Abbey Corner. He's got his nose in front, in fact, on the inside line, and sweep through. Indeed he does. So Marion Kramers and Seb Priaulx exchanging 7th place about 3 or 4 times there over the course of half a lap, and now Seb Priaulx's teammate dives to the inside. That's Alex Connor. This wasn't in the Arden script. Alex Connor tries to overtake Seb, but in the end backs out of that one, tries instead to get the run out of the link down the hanger straight. Seb Priaulx weaves to the inside to defend, also trying to break the toe. That's not going to happen, but he has at least covered the inside line. Connor goes to the outside. This is the battle between teammates for 8th position, I remind you, and Alex Connor going round the outside of Seb Priaulx. Seb holds tough again on the inside line. Brilliant stuff this between teammates. Slow car in front of them. It's red and white, which is why I panicked, but I don't think it's it's Villa Gomez heading into the pit lane. One of the Fortec race leaders, thank goodness. So Rafael Villagomez, who was running down in 22nd anyway, limping into the pits with some damage. So Seb Priaulx then, how did this one settle out? Priaulx still in front of Alex Connor. They're being caught now by Nathan de Villiers as well. So 3 Arden cars are getting themselves together here. The best placed of these 3 in the championship is Seb Priaulx in 9th in the points. There is Jonathan Hoggard, meanwhile, still scrapping away here with James Headley. These are 2 drivers you would expect to be further towards the front than 11th and 12th, which is where they're running at the moment. Headley 11th, Hoggard in 12th position. Hoggard, therefore, still not in the points. So, again, as things stand, he would just about be knocked out of championship contention unless he can get himself into the top 10. Start scoring some points. Slow down penalty we're hearing. Is this for Hoggard? Yes, he's dropping back down the hanger straight, so he must have fallen foul of that track limits penalty that Dan Blake was discussing coming out of the link earlier on. Breathless stuff here, though, and some really brilliant racing here between the Arden teammates, Seb Priaulx and Alex Connor, with Nathan de Villiers now only 3/4 of a second behind them. There you can see, it would make a great team photo if only they were fighting for the top 3 positions. They'd be a bit happier then. Nonetheless, it's very entertaining stuff. Connor goes back up the inside into Abbey Corner, and that time Seb Priaulx did just run a bit wide and allowed him through. So Alex Connor moves himself a bit more securely now into 8th place. As entertaining as this battle's been, though, they've lost 2.5 seconds now to Marion Kramers in front. So very entertaining stuff, but they're not necessarily going as quickly as they could do. To the leaders now. We're into the second half of the race. At what point does Luke Browning seriously start to consider overtaking his teammate? This is assuming, of course, he hasn't already been doing everything he can to get past, but to my untrained eye, it really didn't look in the first 10 minutes of the race like the body language of Luke Browning's car was saying attack, attack, attack. It seemed that he was content just to run behind Chris Lulham. Now, though, he's braking a bit later, he's darting into the corners a bit more aggressively. I would say Browning is on the charge now. He closes in again through Abbey, through the flat-out left-hander at Farm. Does he look to the inside? No, but again, that could just be because he doesn't want to get involved in any 50-50 contact. The last thing these two need to do is take each other out of the race, especially since they are 1.9 seconds now clear of their other championship rival, Zach O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan is reasonably safe in third. He's got a second in hand over Nessov behind him. So really, these two could now start battling without fear of the Carling car behind. And here comes the attack. Luke Browning up the inside into Stowe corner. This is super close racing. And he goes through, runs a bit wide on the exit though. Lullen will try to fight back. Can't get alongside coming down the hill. Defensive line taken by Browning. Chris Lullen goes to the outside line, but Browning holds tough. I think it's fair to say they're racing now and they're immediately holding each other up. Keep an eye on Zach O'Sullivan, who's taken about half a second out of them in the last three corners just because of these two running side by side, which they will do once again across the start-finish line. Onto the 13th lap of racing. Lullen tries the outside line for Abbey. You can't do that. He runs off the track. You can do that. Brilliant stuff. Chris Lullen is still there, but again stuck on the outside line into Village. Again, teammates at play. We've seen it from Arden, and now we're seeing it from Fortec, but this is different. This is for the championship lead, and Chris Lullen will not let his more experienced teammate through without a fight. They are still wheel to wheel. This is almost a full lap side by side, and Lullen has fought back tremendously to get the lead back away from his teammate. Browning can't get to the inside this time down the hanger straight. Will he go to the outside? Yes, he does. Lullen's later on the brakes. Does that mean that Browning might be quicker off the corner? No, it's pretty 50-50 really. They're pretty equal off the turn, but now Zach O'Sullivan, who was 1.7 seconds behind them, what you can see now, he's alongside Luke Browning for second. There's a bit of wheel banging between the two of them. That was dangerous. They just about avoid serious damage though, I think, but Zach O'Sullivan is right there with them. So is Alexei Nessov, and not that far back is Rafa Martins in 5th position. So the more these two start dicing, the more cars are going to join in the fun and the less predictable this all gets. Here comes Browning, back at Lullen, back round the outside into Village. That's the position Lullen was in a lap ago, and that turned into the race lead a couple of corners later. No such luck for Browning on this occasion though. He stays in line, stays behind his teammate. Nessov is starting to make a nuisance of himself behind Zach O'Sullivan, and disappointingly, we've only got 5 minutes of this race to go. This is fantastic stuff. The Silverstone International Circuit is delivering on the slipstreaming side-by-side racing we promised you, and this is so tense between the top 3 drivers in the championship. Chris Lullen leads, Luke Browning second, Zach O'Sullivan third. That's the order they're in the points as well. It is absolutely vital for the drivers in second and third in this race to make progress, but the driver in third about to lose progress there. Alexei Nessov has overtaken Zach O'Sullivan, and Nessov right now is the fastest of these drivers on the track. Here's the replay, super late lunge, and of course because O'Sullivan is still thinking about points, couldn't afford to turn in and try and close the door. He had to let Nessov go, but he will try and fight back if he can. The Fortec drivers together. Nose to tail for third as well. We'll focus on the leaders first of all, though, because Browning's sending one up the inside into Village corner. Again, they run within inches of each other. Luke Browning still can't prise the door open, though, and Chris Lullen continues to keep him at arm's length. I have no idea how Chris Lullen is doing this. Luke Browning is throwing every single trick in the book at him, and he can't find a way past, at least not for more than a corner or so. They're 3 abreast meanwhile for third, and out of nowhere, Rafa Martins has overtaken Alexei Nessov, and now he's trying to go around the outside of Zach O'Sullivan. He can't do that. That leaves the door open for the Russian driver Nessov to get back up the inside as well, and they will run wheel to wheel once more down the hill into club. 3 into 1 doesn't usually go down here. Who comes out on top? It's going to be very close between Nessov and O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan exits stage left, but he'll sweep back across to the second apex, holds on to third place. It's a job to remember to breathe in this race. Terrific stuff from the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. This is the kind of racing we really wanted to see, and with so much on the line as well, it is a testament to the skill of all of these young drivers that they're managing to do this so far, he says, with all of his fingers and toes crossed, without making serious contact. Brilliant. O'Sullivan then still third, Nessov fourth, Martins fifth. Nothing changed in all of that, apart from the fact Verone, who remember I told you about 10 minutes ago was 2.5 seconds behind this lot, has now caught them as well. O'Sullivan slow off the link. He takes the defensive line immediately to try and cover from Nessov, who goes to the outside. To the outside of him looks Rafa Martins, but that door is closed firmly in his face. Nessov and O'Sullivan side by side through Stowe corner for third. Nessov can't go through there, and it stays the same order. They are now once again losing ground to the leading two. There's contact! Oh, O'Sullivan's off the road, and that could be the final nail in the coffin of his championship hopes. He'll have some damage. He's got to dig his way out of the gravel trap, and Zach O'Sullivan is down to 10th place. He could fall outside of the points as a result of that, and that was contact, I think, with Nesov. We'll get a look at a replay in a moment, but the battle is still going on. Nesov defending busily, trying to keep Rafa Martins and Nico Verone behind him. Through farm they go again, and the Russian driver Alexei Nesov, who was a late entrant into the championship, but he certainly left his mark on the British Formula 4 iRacing trophy, could be on for another podium finish here if he can bring it home. Alexei Nesov has already scored 2 third place finishes. This would be his third place finish and his 4th appearance in the top 5 if he manages to stay there to the flag. His chances of doing that are looking pretty good though, actually, because now he's pulling away from the dicing Martins and Verone behind. Marin Kramers, who'd sort of fallen out of this scrap earlier on, is now back with them as well, side by side between the 2 red and white cars. But remember, the car on the inside line there is a Arden car, but the red and white number 37 is a privateer entry for Nico Verone. He doesn't have to worry about any team standings here. Incidentally, in the Teams Championship, you'll be surprised to hear things are looking very good for Fortec. They could very much wrap up the Teams title today. They're running 1-2 at the moment. Oh, contact, that's a shame. Rafa Martins, as he turned into Abbey Corner, there was just a bit of contact wheel to wheel with with Verone, excuse me. Verone's got damage from all of that as well. And, well, I knew I shouldn't have said that thing about there not being any significant contact, because as soon as I said that, it's all started to kick off between those drivers fighting outside of the top 2. The drivers inside the top 2, still the same order, by the way. Lulham and Browning, still nose to tail. The battle's still raging. Are we on the final lap, or is there one more after this, I wonder? It's going to be tight, isn't it? I think they're probably going to get the last lap board this time around. Down into the final couple of corners they go. Black and white warning flag for car 33, Alexei Nesov, for causing contact. That'll be the contact he had with O'Sullivan, so no penalty, just a warning. And 37 and 3 was deemed to be net code, so that is the Verone and Rafa Martin's contact. That apparently was netcode, no malice at all, no penalty. Right, what's going to happen between these two? Less than a lap to go around the Silverstone International Circuit. These are the top 2 in the championship. They're 5.5 seconds now clear of everybody else, so they're once again free to race on the final lap. Luke Browning has realistically one more shot at this. He needs to get the toe down the hanger straight and try and tee Chris Lulham up for a move, either into Stowe or better still, into club the final couple of corners. He's doing the first part right. He's closing in the slipstream, looks to the inside line, trying to unsettle his teammate. That doesn't work very easily though. Lulham turns into the corner perfectly, and now I'm not sure Browning's going to be close enough. Down into the final braking zone of the race. Onto the brakes they go. They close in again. Inch perfect line through the left and through the right. Lulham looks like he might hang on. Runs wide over the curb. Browning's not quite going to get there, and Chris Lulham is going to come through to take his 4th race victory of the season to extend his championship lead in an absolute thriller here at the Silverstone International Circuit. 2nd place for Luke Browning, 3rd place for Alexei Nesov. Despite having a couple of little incidents there in the final couple of laps, it was still a good drive for him to actually retain the 3rd place in which he started. Marin Kramers 4th, Nico Verone 5th, Alex Connor 6th, Seb Prio gets 7th place. Good to see him back in the points. Zach O'Sullivan is 8th. And Jonathan Hoggard, potentially significantly there, ends up back in the top 10. In 9th place, he'll score a couple of points for that. That might be enough. In championship contention. Abby Pulling rounds out the top 10 despite her spin. So she benefited from the late collisions to get herself back into the points. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we can breathe for the first time in about 20 minutes. I've got a right sweat on here in the comms box, I can tell you. That was proper racing there. And as I said on a few occasions, with so much on the line, those wheel-to-wheel moments where they're dicing for the race lead, they're intense enough as it is, let alone when you're fighting for the championship lead, let alone when your teammates. That's the other part of this, of course. Those two both running for Fortec. There is a real incentive there not to hit each other, not to let that go wrong. And thankfully, between those two at least, it did not. Fabulous racing, and Chris Lulham is the one that comes out with the race victory. Luke Browning in 2nd position. Alexei Nesov is in 3rd. Marin Kramers 4th, and Nico Verone to round out the top 5. Then it's Alex Connor in 6th position, one of the biggest movers of the race. He picked up 6 spots from starting 12th on the grid. Seb Prio behind him also gained 6 positions to finish in 7th at the flag. O'Sullivan, though, he'll be annoyed. He ends up 8th after that spin down at club. Jonathan Hoggard 9th, and Abby Pulling in 10th position. Outside the points, Luke Whitehead was 11th, Christian Mansell 12th, James Headley in 13th, Jaden Oyeda was 14th, and Bart Horston, disappointing there really. He was involved in dramas at the start of the race, that spin at the link triggering the pile-up. He ends up outside of the points in 15th. Horatio Fitzsimon is 16th. Rafa Martin 17th. Lube in 18th, and Nathan de Villiers in 19th, and he will be on pole position for race number 2. We've just been notified by Dan Blake. It will be a top 19 grid reversal. Then it is Zagazeta 20th, Nico Pino 21st, and Rafael Gomez in 22nd. And I believe, I'm just going to double check that I read that right before I say anything I shouldn't do. Yes, so everybody outside of the top 3 in points is now out of it. It is a 3-way shootout for the title between Chris Lulham, Luke Browning, and Zach O'Sullivan. We'll update you on the points before race number 2. But for now, we need to turn our attention to the podium because we have our podium drivers ready and waiting for a chat. Let's pull in Chris Lulham then, our race winner, once again in the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. Chris, that's your 4th victory of the season. I would venture that there have been few harder than that one. Luke Browning threw everything he had at you. Every time, you seem to have an answer for him. Great stuff.
Yeah, no, it was a really good battle. We both gave each other space, respect, and I managed to hold him off. He had me sweating though, so yeah, one of the hardest races of the season for me.
Absolutely. I was going to say you both had me sweating up here in the concourse as well. That was truly brilliant to watch. I know it's a track where you can run side by side and you can use that slipstream to alongside people pretty easily, but it's still hard to do that racing wheel to wheel with each other, especially I would say in a sim. Maybe it's a bit harder to do that in a sim than in real life because that perception of where the other car is isn't always that easy to get a grasp of.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a bit harder in sim because you've got to give space for any inconsistencies with connection and whatnot. But both of us have good experience on the sim, and we both have good experience racing each other in this series and in other series. And I think that's the reason it came out clean. But yeah, it was a really good race.
It was a fantastic race, and the good news is you've got to go and do it all over again now from 19th on the grid in race number 2. Now, last time at Snetterton, you did really well out of that reverse grid race. What are the chances of a similar storming drive again today?
Yeah, for sure. This track is a bit easier to overtake because of the longer straights and a bit slow corners. But yeah, I'll aim for a top 5. But if there is possible, I'll push for it.
The rest of the grid just gave out a collective groan when they heard you say it's easier to overtake here because there's been no stopping you all through the season, really. You've left a real impact on this championship so far. It would be great, wouldn't it, if you could seal the deal and wrap up the title come the end of the season?
Yeah, for sure. That's the end goal for me. But there's still 3 races to go, and I'll see what happens.
We will indeed. We'll be there with you every step of the way as well. Thanks, Chris, for the chat. Well done on the race victory. Now, coming home in second was, of course, Luke Browning, who I'm sure will have his own side of the story to tell. Luke, Chris has just been saying what fun it was to race you for that victory there. It was great fun watching you as well. You didn't come out on top, but did you still enjoy that battle?
Yeah, that was for sure a great battle. Probably my favourite race of the season. Yeah, that was absolutely brilliant fun with Chris. Yeah, we were just battling away. We were talking in Discord like, ooh. Yeah, it was really good. We're close as ever, and yeah, that was really good fun. I enjoyed it.
So not only were you engaging in that wheel-to-wheel battling inches apart, not only are you fighting for a championship, but you were also laughing and joking with each other the whole time.
Oh yeah, we're having a giggle, and yeah, it's quite funny, the Discord, really. We go through a close move, and we're like, "Ooh, that was close." It's good fun.
That's fantastic stuff. Well, I was asking in the first half of the race whether or not maybe working together, because I kind of thought with these last 4 races, the championship coming down to the wire, all of that kind of helping your teammate out, not racing each other, working together to pull away from other people. I thought that might go out the window, but it looked to me like you were quite happy just to work with him, at least for the first half of the race. Was that the case?
Yeah, I mean, why make it, a 5-horse race when you can just battle for, first and second at the end? That it's pointless putting yourself into a bit of a predicament where you've got 10 cars. That's why when we battled quite hard first time, we just said, let's do a couple laps, and then we can have a battle for the lead again at the end.
On what a battle it was. And of course, you've now got to both try and make some progress from, I think you'll be 18th, he'll be 19th on the grid for race 2. So what are your thoughts ahead of that second race? It could be a really important one.
Yeah, I mean, survive. I'll say it over and over again, but hopefully we can do it this time. Yeah, we had an absolute shocker of a race last time, and I couldn't really do much about that, but hopefully we can if I just keep my nose clean, that's all I can do really. I can't do much more than manage my own stuff. So yeah, I'll just manage my own race. I'm sure me and Chris will go through together. Probably the other way around this time, which will be interesting. So yeah, it'll be good fun. I'm sure it'll be interesting to watch.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Luke, and well done. Another podium.
Cheers.
Standing then in second place, and Alexei Nesov in third position joins us once again on the podium. Alexei, well done. Welcome back to the podium. That's your third podium of the season so far. Another third place, but you really had to work hard for that one.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. The race was pretty funny, but unfortunately, in the turn, Zach broke a bit early, and I couldn't rate it. So we had an incident. From my point, it was a net code, but still, it was my bad, and I'm so sorry to Zach. Anyway, it was really funny, and I'm looking forward to the next race.
Yeah, the reversed grid race, which is always a bit more chaotic, but this circuit, a lot of people are saying that you can overtake here and you should be able to make progress. So what do you think? Can you finally get onto the second step of the podium, or maybe even get that race win tonight?
It's gonna be really hard because to fight from the back of the field, it's much way more harder than just to start from second or first row. But still, yeah, it will be much more house, and I hope I will fight from the back.
We're looking forward to seeing how you get on. Well done, Alexei. Your third
you.
podium of the season.
Thank you. See you.
Nesov then in third position, and that rounds out the first part of this evening's entertainment. The good news is there is another 20-minute race where that one came from. We're going to take a very short break. Do not go anywhere though, because a top 19 grid reversal for race number 2 is setting us up for what could be one of the most important races of the season so far. Can Luke Browning close in on Chris Lillum? Can Zach O'Sullivan mount a late charge to take the battle to the Fortec drivers to Brands Hatch next week? Those questions and many, many more will be answered in a few minutes' time when we go back racing here at Silverstone, British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy.
The team at Momentum Social has a strong history in the Toka paddock, and this is our second season working with the British Formula 4 Championship, providing video and creative services. As the first rung on the ladder towards Formula 1, the British Formula 4 Championship is pivotal in the young driver's racing career. Working with the championship, we wanted to give fans an exclusive look into what a race weekend is like from the driver's perspective, with behind-the-scenes access and exclusive content. Now in collaboration with Year One TV and Jacob Ebury Photography, we're helping to bring you the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy, which has already seen some great racing so far this season. Can't wait to see you at the next one.
Welcome back, everybody, to Silverstone and the final race of the night for the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. The last race before we head to Brands Hatch in a week's time to wrap it all up and decide on a champion. The first race tonight was an absolute thriller. If you've missed it, then you'll definitely want to catch up with it on YouTube later on. It'll be all available on the Year One Racing TV YouTube channel, and also head over to the British Formula 4 social media pages for links to all of the action, not just from tonight, but from all of the previous races this season. They've all been good, but tonight's first race arguably was one of the best races of the season so far. It saw Chris Lullum come out on top, though, to take his 4th race victory of the year, narrowly pipping his teammate and championship rival Luke Browning to 2nd, while Sacco Sullivan is still in championship contention, but having finished down in 8th position, he has some serious work to do now in this second race of the night. Well, the drivers are just in a 10-minute free practice session, 3.5 minutes left of that before they start gridding up for the second 20-minute encounter of the night, which just about gives us time to have our weekly chat with the media and public relations manager for the British Formula 4 Championship, Damien Meaden. Damien, welcome back to the comms box. That wasn't a bad first race, really, was it?
Yeah, good evening, Andy. Evening, everyone. And you're absolutely right. I think, in my opinion, that was the race of the season so far. Just absolutely no quarter given at the front. Honestly, I spent about 15 minutes, as I'm sure everybody else did, thinking lap on lap, any moment the contact's going to come. Any moment it's just going to go a little bit over that fine line between an absolute disaster and what we ended up having, which was a brilliant race between the two of them. Chris Lullum really stamping his authority there. That means his lead is now 26 points, only 75 available as it stands, 50 after this next race. So he's really starting to close in on that, and that's really sort of put the onus on Luke Browning now in this reverse grid race. He's got to come out and be aggressive, because he's got to try and get that gap down, because if Chris Lullum can get any more of a lead heading into the last 2 races at Brands Hatch, it's going to be an increasingly steep hill for Browning to climb. But no, brilliant race up and down the field. Really enjoyed that.
Interesting dynamic as well between those 4 tech drivers for me, particularly because Lullum had that 19-point cushion, which wasn't massive, but it was the biggest championship lead anyone had really throughout the season. There was a point where Browning looked to have got him beat. Browning had got through, and I thought, okay, maybe Chris might just bag the points for second. Did not. He fought straight back. He got that lead back. It could have gone horribly wrong, and thankfully it didn't. But I think that says a lot about Chris as a driver, that he doesn't give up, he doesn't give in, and even if he's got that championship lead, he's still going to fight for every position, especially if it's got anything to do with his teammate Luke Browning.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great to see such a quick fight back as well. I think there was a danger maybe after Browning got past that he could have gapped Chris a little bit. The slipstream came into effect straight away. We saw Browning Lullum rather get right back onto the back of his teammate, made the move stick, and I think it's really commendable the way they're going about it as well. They're both very desperate to win the championship. They really want to be that first British F4 iRacing champion, but they're not prepared to do it at the expense of the team result, which I think is a really credible way to go racing, and I think also especially impressive because it's often very difficult to do as well, but they've managed to execute it perfectly so far.
There's some real trust there, I think, between the teammates. And speaking of trust in your teammates, the Arden team also showed that in that race as well. That was a brilliant battle a little bit further back between the Arden drivers, wasn't it? And once again, it was squeaky clean. They changed positions on several occasions. Does it help, do you think, that your teammates with these people? Does that maybe help you just step back and think a bit more carefully? And also the fact you get on, presumably, do you think that has an effect on how they race each other out there?
Yeah, it undoubtedly does. I think not to say that you would try and overstep the mark if you were racing against somebody from another team, but you definitely do think twice when it's somebody in the same liveried car as your own. You just don't want to have to deal with with the additional fallout afterwards. So brilliant race between all 4 of the Arden guys, and it was you just couldn't tell which way it was going to go. It was unfortunate that there was a bit of contact and Rafa Martins went off as well, because it was really shaping up to be a great fight, and they looked like they were going to be on for a quadruple points finish, so that would have been a brilliant team's result. As it stands, they still managed to bring 3 cars home in the top 10, so yeah, not a bad evening's work so far for them.
26 points in it then, Browning behind. Very quick answer, because we're about to go into the race. Can he still do it? Can he still overhaul Lullum to take the title?
Absolutely, this is far from done yet, and I think this next race might be the crucial one. It's really going to set the tone for the season finale.
Excellent stuff. Thank you, as ever, for your time, Damien. We'll speak to you again at Brands Hatch in a week's time. Go away, though, and enjoy this race. I think it's going to be another good one. So here we go then. The grid lining up ahead of our second race of the night here from Silverstone. Let's talk you through how it looks. It's a top 19 grid reversal. So Rafa Martins has Fred Lubin alongside him. It's a very Arden heavy front couple of rows of the grid because next up is Nathan de Villiers third, then Horatio Fitzsimon, and then another Arden driver, Bart Horston, in fifth. Jaden Oyeda, is alongside him on row 3, ahead of Christian Mansell and Luke Whitehead, Abby Pulling, and Jonathan Hoggard. Then row 6, James Headley and Zach O'Sullivan. Row 7, Alex Connor and Nico Verone. Row 8, Marion Kramers and Alexei Nesov. And then Luke Browning, Seb Prio, and Chris Lullum. Seb Prio has a grid penalty from an incident at Snetterton. That's why he drops down and separates those two Vortec drivers, and that could be crucial. Oyeda, by the way, is starting for the pit lane. That's also as a result of a penalty from last time out. Keep an eye then towards the front, the back, the middle, everywhere, really. You need about 7 pairs of eyes to follow all of the action that's about to unfold over the next 20 minutes. Championship leaders starting down towards the back end of the top 20. Drivers at the front desperate for a race win. Let's see what happens. The lights are out. Away they go. Good start made by Rafa Martin from pole position. Good start also made by Nathan de Villiers from third to pull alongside his teammate Fred Lubin into turn 1. But it's Arden formation at the front of the field in the top 3 places. And Bart Horston trying to make it a top 4 as well. He moves up alongside the Carlin driver Christian Mansell. Can't do it. Lubin runs wide as well. De Villiers is up the inside for second. This is all allowing Rafa Martins to pull away in front. Up the inside goes de Villiers. He takes P2. Lubin now on the outside looking in. Has got Christian Mansell and Bart Horston behind. Side by side they go. Bump drafting between the Arden teammates. Look at this. Fred Lubin getting a push from Bart Horston down the hanger straight to move back into second place. Phenomenal stuff. Gets off him just before they hit the brakes into Stowe Corner, but Christian Mansell is still there. Up the inside line, through Stowe they go, down into the braking zone at Club again, as the Carlin drivers try to battle their way past the Arden machines in front. There's contact in the background. Round goes Fitzsimon. Luke Whitehead, I think, got into the back of him, and Horatio Fitzsimon has to dig his way out of that gravel trap and rejoin the circuit halfway around Club Corner, and the safety car is out for the second time tonight. A safety car at the end of lap 1, this time as a result down at Club, and that's Verone off and Nessoff as well. 2 of our front runners from race number 1, both off the track, and it looks like Verone is stuck. Nessoff is heading into the pit lane. We'll see a replay maybe here of what happens as they drop down into Vale. And, well, that's contact them. Oh, no, this is, sorry, excuse me, this is the start of the race we're seeing a replay of here. So this is, well, Nico Verone here, we believe. I've lost pictures, I'm afraid, for the replay, but Nico Verone, we know, has headed for the pit lane. The replay now at the start, the run through the first corner, so there was, I think there was other issues, though, it's fair to say, because Abby Pulling is down the order, and now, this is important, Chris Lullum is in the pit lane. So what has happened to Chris Lullum? That's what we really need to try and find out here, because Chris Lullum, our championship leader, is in the pits going through a fast repair. And yeah, Lullum has it's James Headley, would you believe? So James Headley, who had a part to play in Zach O'Sullivan's demise at Snetterton, remember last time, another championship contender, this time around on the receiving end of some contact from Lullum, and we're going to see another replay here. Then this time I think going to see what happened to Jonathan Hoggard down into Vale. This is just behind Whitehead. Oh, that looks like Netco to me. Whitehead into the back of Horatio Fitzsimon, and Hoggard had to go off in avoidance as well. So all of this means that Jaden Oyeda is still in the pit lane. Abby Pulling has been in, so too Nico Verone and Chris Lullum. They're all still in the pit lane right now. So this is going to really, really shake up our championship points, because where is Luke Browning? Luke Browning is 9th already. Wow, he's gained 8 positions already, has Luke Browning, as we continue to cycle through the replays here of the incidents on the opening lap. Back to live pictures now. Let's run you through the order, and then we'll get into the points permutations. Rafa Martins has the lead, Fred Lubin second. They're the same order in which they started. Christian Mansell has overtaken 4 drivers already to get himself into 3rd place. Bart Horston is 4th. Nathan de Villiers is down to 5th. He's the big loser, really, out of all of this, at least of those at the front of the grid. Then Zach O'Sullivan in 6th. Zach O'Sullivan, I think, realistically, has to win this race. Coming into this race, O'Sullivan was on 111 points to Chris Lullum's 178. So In other words, a long way back. He was 67 points behind. There will be 50 points available at the end of tonight. So as a bare minimum, by my reckoning, and someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Zach needs second place in this race, provided Lulham doesn't score. I reckon Zach O'Sullivan needs to finish at least second in this race to keep his championship hopes alive. Of course, if he can win it, that's even better. That will be an extra 7 points. You get 25 for a win, only 18 for second, but I think he needs to score at least 17 points, which means he needs to score 18 for second to keep himself in contention if Lulham is not able to score, and Lulham is still in the pit lane 3 laps down. Now this is interesting because they have this fast repair, don't they? I'm intrigued as to why Lulham is still in the pit lane. Realistically, he should have been able to get back out, I think, before the he did, right, okay, he had to get back to the pits first and had that much damage. It just took too long, basically, so by the time he got to the pits, he was already laps down. So Chris Lulham is back out in the race, but 3 laps down, so unless lots of other drivers fall by the wayside, which could happen, but let's hope it doesn't in a way, because we want to see more clean racing, not more crashing. Unless that were to happen, I think Lulham realistically is not going to score points from this race, and that would be the first time that has happened all season long. Chris Lulham has scored at least 1 point in every one of the races we've had so far. He scored that 1 point on 2 occasions. The second race at Donington and the second race at Alton, he finished in 10th place on those 2 occasions. Scored just a single point, so this could be the first time he's out of the points. This is the best opportunity then for Zach O'Sullivan and Luke Browning to capitalise and close the gap. Right then, lights are out. We're about to go racing again, and Rafa Martins is looking for his first race victory of the season. It's not been a great season really for Rafa. No podiums, no top 5s in fact so far this season for Rafa Martins, so there's a good chance that if he stays out of trouble, he'll get his best result of the season. The same true for Fred Lubin in second place. It's an Arden 1-2. Now, will they maybe work together a la Fortec from race 1? Well, they might not need to if Rafa Martins puts that sort of a gap on Lubin on the restart. Rafa Martins goes early, Lubin holding everybody else back, and already the lead gap is up near 9/10 of a second as they cross the line, and O'Sullivan's off! I don't believe it. Zach O'Sullivan, who needs to finish in the top 2 in this race to keep his hopes for the championship alive, has gone off before they even get to the start-finish line. What on earth has happened there? He's dropped down to 16th place now, and he is a long way back. Oh, he hit the curb! He hit that sausage curb coming through Club Corner, and the car launched skywards. We've seen drivers so far tonight running the other side of that sausage curb to try and avoid it, and that is, with iRacing's track limits regulations, perfectly allowed at that corner, and he just misjudged it, ran over the curb and ended up spinning away possibly his hopes of the championship. So now then, really, for the championship, it all boils down to Luke Browning. He's in 7th place at the moment. He is 26 points back, so he needs to try and win it to try and get that gap down to a single point. Meanwhile, the battling's still going on here between Arden and Carlin. It's one of the oldest rivalries in single-seater racing, and it's Arden coming out on top at the moment, with Rafa Martins, Fred Lubin and Bart Horston making it a 1, 2, 3 for the red and white cars, with Christian Mansell in 4th place. We're on board with him now. The Aussie driver trying to get himself back on the podium. Through Abbey Corner they go. They're all getting held up a bit here, I think, by Fred Lubin, who is 2.8 seconds behind his teammate Rafa Martins already. Up the inside looks Horston. He's trying to attack, he's trying to defend at the same time. Christian Mansell wants to get a move on here too, and not far behind them, Marion Kramers, Nathan de Villiers and Luke Browning. Up the inside goes Christian Mansell through the link, tries to get the run down the back straight, and he is going to do that, I think, but he has no slipstream. The Arden drivers are going to work together here and give each other the toe, and here at the inside comes Marion Kramers. Up the middle goes Marion Kramers, in fact, into Stoke Corner, goes around the outside of Mansell, goes on the inside. That's not going to work. He's so late on the brakes, somehow avoids Horston. That was a brilliant bit of driving. I could have sworn they were going to bang wheels and go off the road there. Horston back up the inside. Oh, there's contact this time, and around goes Fred Lubin. That's a shame. That was Kramers into the back of him, James Headley. Oh, well, that could have been very close, because involved in all of that was Luke Browning. Yes, Luke Browning got through. Oh, and Zach O'Sullivan now making contact with Alex Connor. That was necessary, but I think that's a bit of frustration maybe for Zach O'Sullivan. It's taken Alex Connor out of the race though, potentially, because he's stuck in the gravel coming out of Club Corner and fast tracks back to the pit lane. Right, Kramers back up the inside of Nathan de Villiers. That is for 5th place. Right behind them there, the white and red car, that is Luke Browning. He has gained 13 spots. He's in 4th position. If Luke Browning can win this race, he will be just 1 championship point behind his teammate Chris Lulham. into Brands Hatch. Now, the race win might not be on the cards because the leader, Rafa Martins, is 4.4 seconds ahead of anybody else, but he can certainly get himself on the podium and maybe snatch 18 points for second place. Here he goes. He's up the inside already. Is Luke Browning, if anybody's defending, is he there from... Luke Browning fourth. So that's who's the car that he's racing with. They're side by side for second. Mansell up the inside of Horston, who's through. But there's a blue car. Oh, Marion Kramer's behind Luke Browning. Was trying to get past him there as they went into Stowe Corner. My mistake, getting my Colin and Fortec cars mixed up for a second there. Through they go. Second place battle on your screen. Christian Mansell in the blue Carling car is second. The red and white Arden car of Bart Horston is third. Remember, making his first appearance in the championship. Luke Whitehead got a podium on his first appearance a week ago. It looks as though Bart Horston might be able to do the same thing. Goes on the inside of Christian Mansell. This for second place. It didn't work though, and it cost them both momentum. And this is Browning's opportunity to maybe get into second place. We are not yet halfway through this race. If he can clear these two quickly, he might, just might, be able to set off after the race leader. Into Stowe they go up the inside for Browning. The door is left open by Bart Horston, who will not want to take out the championship leader, but equally doesn't want to give away a podium place here to Club. This is not the kind of battling really that Browning wants to be a part of, but he's got no choice. He's got to make progress. Round the curb he goes, sweeps back across to the late apex through Club Corner. Marion Kramer's behind him as well now. I did get confirmation between the races, by the way, that only the top three drivers in the championship can still win it. So Kramer's is out of it now. So too Verone, so too Hoggard. It is all down to Luke Browning, Chris Lullum and Zach O'Sullivan. With Lullum and O'Sullivan out of the points right now, it's Browning's time to shine. Got to try and make quick progress, though, if nothing else, just to get himself out of this hornet's nest that he finds himself in. Through they go then, down the Hanger Straight, and he's in the tow. He's got a good run here on Bart Horston. How hard will Horston defend? Particularly, it must be said, he leaves the door invitingly open for Browning on the inside. Luke is late on the brakes. He gets to the apex first, and every time he pulls alongside another car, I hold my breath. Marion Kramer's with a spin there in the background. That's not good news for Marion. The Carlin driver has a quick spin, rejoins up alongside the number 60 car, Nico Pino, who we haven't really mentioned tonight so far, but Pino's in the top 10. In fact, that move there puts him into 9th place at the expense of Kramer's, who fights straight back again through Club, and Nico Pino, just like that, gains a place and then loses it again. Jaden Oyeda is the car behind them in 11th, first car out of the points. Chris Lullum is only 18th still, so even with a few others falling by the wayside, being 2 laps down for Lullum is definitely hurting his chances of getting into the points here. Zach O'Sullivan, though, in 13th, has maybe a slightly better chance of points, but he's second to keep himself in championship contention. Slow down here for Horston. Bart Horston exceeds the track limits going through the link and has to slow down. That lets Luke Browning through, and also Jonathan Hoggard, his teammate, who is immediately playing the team game, giving his teammate a push down the back straight. Bump drafting in Formula 3 cars is not something you see too often, but it's clearly possible here, and Jonathan Hoggard gives the assist to his teammate Luke Browning as they both try and set off after Christian Mansell. So through there will come then 10 laps in the books now. We're into the second half of the race. Rafa Martins leads the way by 6.4 seconds. A dominant drive this from Rafa. Christian Mansell is second. Luke Browning is third. Jonathan Hoggard fourth. Alexei Nesov is fifth. He could be on for a double podium here. That'll be the first time he's managed to take 2 podiums in one day so far this season. If he can do it, he's in 5th at the moment. Bart Horston down to 6th after that slowdown penalty. James Headley 7th. Nathan de Villiers 8th. Marion Kramer's 9th. And Jaden Oyeda into the top 10 now at the expense of Nico Pino. Christian Mansell there running a bit wide through the link as well. And slowdown penalty that Dan Blake headlined for us at the start of the night was going to be a potential issue. And indeed it has proven to be so far, with a few drivers running wide there and getting that instant slowdown track limits penalty. No such bother though for Rafa Martin. 6.5 seconds the cushion that he has over Christian Mansell in second place. I think realistically now, the best Luke Browning can hope for here is second place, but that would still be 18 points if he can get past Christian Mansell and stay there, of course. Side by side here between Nathan de Villiers and James Headley. Headley in the grey car on the inside gets overtaken round the outside for the second week in succession, this time by Nathan de Villiers, and Marion Kramer now tries to join in as well, recovering after his spin. Headley dives back up the inside into Abbey Corner. This has trouble written all over it. Marion Kramer tries to make it 3 wide. Somehow they avoid contact for the time being. Headley back up the inside again into Village Corner. There it is. There's the contact, and there's a spinning Arden car in the distance as well. Who knows? That's Bart Horston's gone round. So de Villiers, we watched having a spin, and there is Bart Horston, who's had a moment of his own going down into the link. And unfortunately for Horston, that will drop him way down the order, out of the points, in fact. to 11th place. And again, a bit like Zach O'Sullivan on the restart, it was self-inflicted over one of those horrible sausage curbs that seem to be lining most of the circuit here at Silverstone. It's all to stop people exceeding track limits, and it works really, because if you run over them, you've just seen the result. But as you can see there through Club, the drivers do have that nifty little line they can take around the outside. So this is the scrap for second position. Luke Browning, fastest man on the track. He set the fastest lap of the race last time around, a 58.11, but he can't get past Christian Mansell. Now, I thought, no disrespect to Mansell at all here, but I did think that maybe this move would have been made by now. You would have put your money all day long on Luke Browning, championship contender, to move himself here into second at the expense of the number of the 15-year-old Christian Mansell. Christian, who took part in the British Formula 4 scholarship last year before signing with Carlin to make his full-time step up to single-seaters in 2020. Had a best result of 4th place in the Australian Formula 4 Championship a year or two ago. So he has good Formula 4 racing pedigree. He's now going up against one of the best drivers in the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy, Luke Browning. As it stands right now, would be scoring 15 championship points. So that's what, 11 points behind that he'd be going into Brands Hatch, behind Chris Lullum this is, in the championship. It's a very quick maths I did there. I'm prepared for them to be wrong, but he's 26 points behind now, and he's on course to outscore Lullum by 15. It would be by 18 points, though, if he can make this move that he's attempting into Village. Mansell's late on the brakes. He's too late. He locks up. He runs out wide. This is maybe the chance for Browning to go for it, but he can't get alongside there. He will be helped here, no doubt, by the fact that it's his teammate Jonathan Hoggard behind him. He knows that Jonathan isn't going to make life difficult for him, but right behind Jonathan is Alexei Nesov, who, as we saw in race 1, does not really mind too much, mixing it up with the championship contenders. Oh, Mansell with a really late defensive move there into Stowe corner, and now Nesov is up the inside of Hoggard. Hoggard has to now switch his attention fully to being rear gunner to his teammate. He has to try and fend off Alexei Nesov the last... Oh, there's contact! Contact for Luke Browning! I don't believe it! Luke Browning's off the road! He's tangled with Christian Mansell as they diced over second place. He will rejoin the track, but he's lost ground and he may have sustained damage. Luke Browning only loses 1 position, would you believe, because of course he gets himself ahead of Mansell. Here's the replay. Well, thankfully I'm not the clerk of the course, so I don't have to decide whether that was netcode or not, but it looked a bit like he outbraked himself and ran into the back. Again, that view doesn't really do Luke Browning any favours, does it? It looked as though there was definitely contact there into the back of Christian Mansell's car. Now, in the end, Mansell has come out of that marginally worse, but for the championship, of course, it's not good news for Browning at all. So he now really is up against it to try and get himself back into a good point-scoring position. He's 4.5 seconds behind Nesov, who is 1.5 behind Hoggard. So he has got some clear track now to drive Bridge to be able to improve on 4th place, and just like that, the championship situation changes. I've just been given the astonishing news that I've got my calculations right for the second time tonight, but it's all out of date, unfortunately, now, because instead of scoring 18 points for second, Luke Browning is now on course for just 12 points for finishing in 4th position. So that gap is not going to be 11, it's going to go up to, what, about 15 or so, surely. I'm not right 3 times in a row. I'll wait for the confirmation in a moment. Into Abbey goes Luke Browning. He could, of course, still lose ground here because Marion Kramers is right behind him now. And we need to know, really, whether or not Luke Browning has any suspension damage, any front wing damage. I can't see anything obvious at the front of the car, but it's not always obvious. If he's knocked the tracking out slightly, if he's knocked the steering out, that will definitely be hurting him down the Hanger Straight, where they're heading now. He's also got no one in front of him to gain a slipstream from, so he is quite literally a sitting duck here to Marion Kramers, who is drafting up behind him, but not able to get close enough. They're almost on the rev limiter there, I think, into the end of the Hanger Straight, so not much scope for slipstreaming at that point. 14 points would now be the cushion. I was so close. I knew that my maths had let me down eventually. So 14 points, as it stands, would separate the top 2 in the championship, with, remember, still 50 points on the table at Brands Hatch next week. There's Jaden Oyeda, who's up to 7th, having started in the pit lane, by the way. It's easy to miss out on some of these storylines sometimes when the championship battle is so riveting, but Jaden Oyeda is running really, really well here, and he is ahead right now of Christian Mansell. So Mansell trying to recover after that contact. Oyeda runs a bit wide, though, and might be about to hand this 6th position to Mansell anytime soon. So yeah, he's already actually gained a position since I was handing that note about him getting all those places from the pit lane. He's about to go back to 7th, though, so again, I was almost right, because Mansell, can't actually drive straight around the outside of him down the Hangar Straight. It's not going to be that simple. Luke Browning, by the way, is just the fastest lap of 58.06, but Browning is still 4.3 seconds behind the top 3. The good news is, though, that means he clearly doesn't have any damage. News is it's cost him a chance of a podium result, realistically. Still some good battling going on here. James Headley's got Horatio Fitzsimon behind him. Horatio recovering from that first lap skirmish down at this part of the circuit. Nico Pino is the cork in this particular bottle. He's running in 8th position. Headley 9th, Fitzsimon 10th, Nathan de Villiers in 11th place. Some more brilliant to and fro action here. Up the inside goes Headley. Through he goes. Pino leaves the door open, and that loses him speed, loses him momentum, and loses him ultimately a place to Horatio Fitzsimon as well. And up the inside goes de Villiers. So 3 places lost in as many corners there, really, for Pino. He's back outside the points again now. Rafa Martins continues serenely on his way. Once again, he has avoided all of the chaos and carnage and desperation behind him, and it looks as though Rafa is on for his first podium finish of the year, his first top 5 of the year. It's not going to be his first top 10. He has been able to score 11 points so far this season, but it's fair to say it has not been a stellar appearance so far in the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy for the driver who competed in British Formula 4 in 2015 and 2016. He scored a race win, 4 podiums, had a pole position as well, but only ever managed 9th, actually, in both of the 2 seasons in which he competed in British Formula 4. But now he is less than a lap away from taking his first victory of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. He'll become the 6th different winner of the season as well, should he hang on to the flag. And given the fact he's 6.6 seconds clear of the rest of the field, that's looking pretty likely. Out of Stowe he goes. I think we're going to see the checkered flag this time anyway. This should be the final lap. Yep, confirmation in my ears. The time, there it is, runs out as they turn into club for the final time. Rafa Martins then comes out of the final turn. He will take his first ever win in the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy, and a thoroughly well-deserved one from pole position as well. It may have been a reversed grid pole position, but they're sometimes the harder races to win. It was a brilliant drive nonetheless for the Arden driver. He gets the victory. Hoggard second, Nessov third. Luke Browning in 4th position. What could have been for Luke Browning? In the end, that moment, it only costs him a handful of points, but it still will be frustrating, I think, for him to be going to Brands Hatch, those 14 points behind his teammate Lulham. There goes Marin Kramers, he was 5th, Jaden Oyeda was 6th, Nathan de Villiers 7th, James Headley 8th, Horatio Fitzsimon 9th, and Zach O'Sullivan gets 10th, but that's not going to be enough. Zach O'Sullivan is out of the championship battle, and, well, actually, he's going to get 9th, because Horatio Fitzsimon's had a spin coming out of Vale, and, yeah, O'Sullivan will get 9th. It doesn't make any difference. He needed to be anywhere in the top 2, and he very much wasn't after that spin on the safety car restart, which was not his finest moment, but he'll live and learn, I suppose. I bet he never runs over that curb again. Rafa Villagomez 11th, and the rest coming through behind. Chris Lulham, for what it's worth, eventually was 18th. So, and only 2 laps down in the end on the race leaders. So, Chris Lulham, no points. First time all season long. We wait for the final cars to come across the start-finish line then, and then we will be able to give you the provisional result. It has been a truly spectacular night of racing here in the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. Here is the result of race number 2. Rafa Martins gets his first race victory of the season, and is that the first win for Arden so far this year? I believe it might be. So brilliant. It's been a good weekend. Good day, I should say, for Arden, really, and they do get a victory out of it. Jonathan Hoggard is the only Fortec driver on the podium this time in 2nd, with Alexei Nessov in 3rd. Luke Browning 4th, still very much be in championship contention, just 14 points behind going to the final 2 races at Brands Hatch next week, whilst Marin Kramers is 5th and Jaden Oyeda is in 6th. Nathan de Villiers 7th, James Headley up to 8th. That was a good drive from him. Zach O'Sullivan 9th, which actually wasn't a bad recovery drive given the various dramas that he had along the way, but it's not enough to keep him in to the championship hunt. Horatio Fitzsimon is rounding out the top 10. And then Rafael Villagomez 11th, misses out on the points. Christian Mansell 12th, Nico Pino 13th, Alex Connor, Bart Horston, Fred Lubin, Nico Verone, and Chris Lulham round out the 18 classified finishers. We lost Luke Whitehead, I'm afraid, along the way. Seb Prio's look eventually was bound to run out, I suppose. He ends up with another non-finish. Abby Pulling likewise, and Matthias Zagazzetta. So a few drivers didn't make it to the end. Rafa Martins, though, very much did, and he got to the checkered flag before anybody else to the tune of 6.3 seconds, and he is waiting for us now on the podium. Let's have a word then, shall we, with our race winner, the first race victory of the season from Rafa Martins, the first race win of the year for Arden as well. Rafa, congratulations, great result.
Oh yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, awesome result. It's very, very difficult to have a clean race in this virtual world. So yeah, normally if you start on the top 3, it's quite easy. But yeah, when you start like 5th or 6th or anywhere else, it's very difficult to have a clean race. And today, in the first race, I think it was very good for me, like I think before. And then I made a contact with, I don't remember exactly, I think Varoni, but it was netcode. So yeah, that's an issue that we have to handle. But yeah, anyways, I got the chance again on race 2 and start on pole, and then I did a very good job. My start was very good and restart as well. So yeah, clean race, win. That's all.
It's the first time we've been able to talk to you this season as well. So let me say thank you, first of all, for joining us. It's been great to have you on board. I know it's not been the most successful season, maybe. You've been very unlucky along the way, but have you enjoyed racing in the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy?
Yeah, it's I raced in F4 in real life in 2016 and 2015. So when I saw the opportunity, why not? So let's go for it. And for me, this virtual world, right, iRacing, everything, it's very, very new. Like I started in iRacing in February, so everything, it's very new to me. So I still getting used to everything, all the cars, how to handle the cars and everything. So yeah, it has been a lot of fun, and I hope I can join you guys later in another championship.
Absolutely, and before that, we've got Brands Hatch next week as well, which I know all of you are looking forward to. Even if it's only in iRacing, it's still a lot of fun, isn't it, to drive that Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit? It's one of those tracks that you all really enjoy.
Yeah, Brands Hatch is great. Like I think it's the best track for me in England. So I'm really looking forward to the next week. I think it's gonna be very, very good. Very close battle. So yeah, let's see.
Well, congratulations on the race victory. Thanks for having a chat, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
For Martins then with the race victory. Second place went to a fourth driver, maybe not the one we were expecting, but it's still very nice to have Jonathan Hoggard back on the podium. Jonathan, you were right in the middle of everything really there, and it looked as though you were quite happy to follow your teammate Luke through and maybe both of you get on the podium, and then all of a sudden it all went wrong, didn't it? What did you see of that?
Yeah, that was a plan. Try and help him because he's obviously fighting for a championship. I'm out of the championship really now, so I think off the start I lost a position or two, trying to avoid an incident, and then the safety car came out, and then obviously just trying to work my way forward. Caught onto the back of Luke, and then was trying to push with him, and then he got caught up in another incident, which I managed to avoid, and then came home in P2.
Yeah, it's your third podium appearance. Yeah, third podium appearance of the season. It's been a bit of a hit or miss season, though, for you, I think, generally, hasn't it? You either do really, really well, or you seem to get caught up in incidents early on in the races. And I have to say, after qualifying today, when you were sort of in the midfield, I was fearful that might happen to you again, but you've actually had a decent night's racing, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been pretty good so far. I think, to be honest, mainly in qualifying when the tyres are like really cold, I struggle quite a lot with the baseline setup, the high downforce setup. But I think once the tyres get going and mid part of to the end of the race, I think I get in my rhythm quite nicely and find a bit more pace compared to the other guys.
And is that something that you find is true in real world racing as well? Is that one of the things that you've kind of transferred over into iRacing?
No, I think I'm generally quite good at heating the tyres up and being bang on the pace. I think it's just the whether it's the weather, the temperature of the track, or something like that. Just can't quite get it right in qualifying. But then luckily I managed to
most of the time make it up in the races, so I'm not caught up in an incident.
Well, thankfully you avoided those incidents in that second race. Great to have you back on the podium, and hopefully more of the same at Brands Hatch next week.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Nogard then finishing in second place, and for the second time it is Alexei Nesov in third position. Alexei, well done, another really good result there. It's always nice to get on the podium considering you started so far back on the grid. I bet you enjoyed that race.
Yeah, definitely. The race was like a roller coaster. After I was smashed on the lap 1 to the wall, and on 2 wheels came to the pits to repair, and after the safety car, I had to fight back from the 16th place, I think. I really don't know how did I do that, but still, third place, another podium. It's great.
That's your fourth podium of the season, and you didn't even race with us for the first 2 race nights. So you've been really impressive all the way through. What are your plans for racing when we get back to real racing? Because I know a lot of people who maybe hadn't heard of you before will definitely be watching out for you now. Caught a lot of people's eyes. So where can they watch you racing later on this year?
I haven't confirmed plans for the year, but after the good results in that series, I got really good offer from the British F3. I hope I will find the budget for this, and also I'm going to race GT races this year. Everything will be announced soon, and so we'll keep in touch, I hope.
Well, brilliant. Well, I'm really glad to hear that you're getting those opportunities, because there's no doubt about it. You're obviously very quick, so it's nice that, that people are starting to take notice. So congratulations, another podium finish.
You.
Well done.
Thank you.
There we go then. They are our podium finishers for race number 2. Now to 2 drivers who weren't on the podium, but they're the 2 most important drivers in a way going forward to Brands Hatch next week, because they are our top 2 drivers in the championship. We will bring in Chris Lulham and Luke Brown, and we'll start with Chris Lulham. Chris, race didn't go to plan. I think it's quite obvious. Let's start with the negatives. What happened on that first lap? Because it really did ruin your race right from the word go, didn't it?
Yeah, no, I just got caught up in a little incident. Got a little bit cut off and touched the curb on the kink, but yeah, and then I got collected after that. So I was out. I couldn't repair in time to get on the leading pack for the pace car. But yeah, didn't go to plan.
And you really couldn't script it, could you? Because we were kind of, during the commentary in the first race, we were kind of saying, look, that first race, you took more points out of Luke. Weren't saying you'd won it yet, but certainly you'd done a lot of the hard work. But it's almost typical, isn't it, that just as you've almost got one hand on that championship trophy, all of a sudden something goes wrong. But that's motorsport for you, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's unpredictable, but things like this happen. I can only go better in race 2 next week.
Well, let's talk about next week then. 14 points, we think, separating you and Luke. The Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, the perfect place to settle it. Not an easy place to pass, but a very easy place to get caught up in contact and other people's problems. So what's your sort of game plan going into the final 2 races next week?
Really, it'll be just to secure top 3 in race 1, and then try my best to survive the carnage in race 2. Get like a top 6-7 points finish, and that should secure everything I need.
And how ready will you be to work with Luke next week? Because we saw in that first race you were kind of working together for the first 10 minutes or so. Does that go out the window now that you've only got these 2 races to go, or are you still kind of going at this as a team effort?
Yeah, no, we do kind of have a team effort, but if it comes down towards the end of the race and we have no one else in contention, we will fight for it. But again, we're pretty respectful with each other, so I doubt it'll cause any issues.
Well, we're really looking forward to it. Commiserations, that's the first time you've been out of the points all year. I suppose you could have timed it slightly better, couldn't you? But it set us up for a brilliant championship decider next week. We're looking forward to it. Best of luck for next week, mate.
Thank you.
And then your championship leader by 14 points going to Brands Hatch. Let's bring in the man who will try to beat him, Luke. It looked as though second place might have been on the cards. The gap would have been just 11 points going to Brands Hatch. What happened down at club though? A bit of contact, wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say really. I was trying to. I said in the voice chat, I just don't want any contact, and he locked up the rears going in, and I just had nowhere to go. Ended up piling into the back of him. Yeah, it's that was tough. That would have been good coming away with second, but yeah, fourth is good. You know, it'll still bring it down to the wire. I'm not sure how big the gap is now. Do you know?
I've been told 14 points, so that's definitely doable, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, 14 points isn't a lot. You know, we'll have. I'm sure we'll be looking forward to it. We was having a chat, me and Chris. Then I think he got really unlucky as well. You know, it is one or the other, and it really is a luck draw this second race, because obviously the first full reverse grid, or is it? I'm not quite sure. 75% of the finishes with reverse grid, and obviously full points are awarded. So it gets tasty.
Tasty is a good way to describe it, I think. And if it does go down to that second race at Brands Hatch, then that is going to be really tense, I think. But before that, you'll have that qualifying session, that first race, and given how tough it is to overtake at Brands Hatch, qualifying, I guess, is going to take on extra importance. And that's where you've had the edge all season long. Does that give you some more confidence, maybe, that you can shrink that gap before you go into that chaotic second race next week?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, qualifying's been brilliant so far. I've just been able to really knuckle down and get my head down to it. Yeah, with the cold tyres, I seem just to be able to really hook a lap up really well. Hopefully, yeah, with Brands being a circuit notoriously hard to overtake, hopefully just go for that pole. I just always struggle off the start a little bit. I will do, because I'm using a foot clutch, so it's a little bit more difficult for me to get it perfect first time every time. But yeah, it should be another interesting race, I'm sure.
Well, last question then. We just asked Chris about the team tactics and the fact that you've been working together so far throughout the season, even tonight. Does that now go out the window next week? He reckons that you'll still be willing to work with each other at least until the end of the races, but given how hard it is to overtake at Brands Hatch, you also kind of have to just go for it if that opportunity arises.
Yeah, for sure. I think, you know, it's always smart to work together. I think, is it true that Fortec has wrapped up the team championship? I'm not sure.
I can't count quick enough, but I'm pretty sure you have. Yes, you were over 100 points ahead anyway, so it's looking good.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome as well. You know, so that's a big celebration for Fortec, the first British F4 championship, and then we'll go for it again next year, which should be good in the real cars. So yeah, that's the real sort of winner out of tonight. You know, me and Chris won 2. We're both happy with that, and as long as the Fortec cars at the front, you know, I think it's great for the team and great for us.
Absolutely, and brilliant entertainment for us as well. You've teed it up perfectly for those final 2 races. We're looking forward to it, and I hope you are too as well. Best of luck for next week.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Luke Browning then will be second place in the championship, going to the championship decider at Brands Hatch next week. You will not want to miss it. It is on the 8th of June, next Monday, 7:30 p.m. UK time. As ever, you can head over to the Year One Racing TV social media pages for all of their upcoming broadcast information. Also head over to the Formula 4 social pages there. I'm sure we'll have lots of social media activity over the next 7 days, building us up to that championship decider. And on that note, let's have a last chat with Damien Meaden, the Media and Public Relations Manager for the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. I was about to say, Damien, that you're going to be pretty busy this week, sort of generating all of the social media stuff and all of the promotion for that final round at Brands Hatch. But actually, some of it's kind of been done for you. When you've got a script as good as this one, it kind of generates a lot of the interest itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, if anybody had tuned in tonight on a bit of a whim just to see what all the fuss was about, they're certainly not going away disappointed, are they? That was the perfect advert for Brands Hatch next Monday. So yeah, in a way, that's half my job done. I can probably go and put my feet up for a week, can't I?
Well, I'm not sure about that, but you might need to relax, I think, because if tonight was anything to go by, and my nerves are in tatters already, and this wasn't even the championship decider. I mean, 14 points going to Brands Hatch, it's going to be epic, isn't it?
Oh, it's going to be fantastic. I mean, that qualifying battle takes on a whole new significance. I think so far for the Fortec guys, it's just been a little bit about pride, just who gets the slight bragging right and who sort of controls the pace going into the race. Now it's about the upper hand for the championship battle, and they both played it quite diplomatic in those interviews, saying that they're willing to help each other out. I think, like you say, that is going to be true to some extent, but I wouldn't be surprised if they give each other a little less room than they're accustomed to so far.
Other storylines for today as well, just briefly before we wrap up. Alexei Nestov, what a night he had. 2 third-place finishes for him. It's been really nice to see drivers like him and Jonathan Hoggard as well, to an extent, real-world drivers that didn't have that much iRacing experience, but getting better and better as the season's gone on. And actually, Rafa Martin's a great example of that as well. He was saying he was new to this whole iRacing thing at the start of the season. Now here he is winning races. This is something we said right at the start, wasn't it? That those drivers that were limited on iRacing experience were going to get there, and they were going to be quick by the end of the season. And actually, they're proving us right for once, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting because in some ways that mirrors what happens in the real life series. You get quite a lot of drivers who have done a year already. They go into their second year. They've got the advantage for the first few rounds, but then the guys coming in as rookies tend to catch them up, and it's usually a pretty level playing field by the end. So quite an interesting parallel we can draw there. But to touch on what you said about the guys like Nessov and Hoggard, good evening for them. Nessov had a really unlucky event at Snetterton, so good for him to bounce back with a couple of podiums, and really pleased for Rafa Martins. You know, he's one driver who's had more than his fair share of bad luck so far, so good for him to get a win, and what a win it was as well. Just blasted away from pole position. 7.3 seconds, I think, was his biggest lead, and I think it was still about 6 seconds by the time he crossed the line. So did everything he needed to do. Perfect showing.
Well, yes, and we've set it up perfectly for Brands Hatch, I think, next week. I'm really excited. I want the next week to just disappear in a flash, really. I want to get straight to it, but we've got to wait. In the meantime, where can people head if they want to find out some more information, not only about the iRacing trophy, but also the Formula 4 Championship? Keeping an eye on all of the social media activity is something I know you're very much involved with. So where do people need to go for more information?
Yep, we've kept that as simple as we possibly can. So it's www.fiaformula4.com. And there you'll find all the race reports, all the interviews, articles, any information coming out of the series, which I know is going to be particularly important for people over the next couple of months as we begin to tick towards possibly getting the season underway at Donington Park in August. Social media, just as simple. It's just at British F4 on all the major platforms. So your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. So I'd head over there. We're already posting content out from the races today, and obviously that will continue this evening and throughout the rest of the week. So yeah, if you've got a spare couple of minutes with a cup of tea, it's definitely worth loading up on your phone and having a scroll through.
Stuff. And thank you, Damien, for all of your hard work as well. It's Damien that's been putting together all of our commentary notes, keeping me up to date with the points, and supporting my slightly ropey mathematics at times. So thank you, Damien, for all your help, and we look forward to hearing from you again next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I should just say on the subject of the Teams Championship, I need to go away and do some maths now. I'm not entirely sure Fortec have wrapped it up, just purely on the basis that Carlin normally have twice as many cars in a race than Fortec have so far. So Carlin have run a peak of 6, Fortec only have 3 or 4 full season runners. So I need to go and work out what Carlin would get if they could, in theory, get a 1st through 6th result. But it's looking really good for them, and needless to say that is quite an outside shot, if nothing else, because Browning and Ullum seem to be allergic to anything below 5th place at the moment.
Oh, well, that is definitely a calculation I'm going to leave to you. I'm going to quit while I'm ahead on the maths.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, no worries. I'll get on with that, and I'll let you know before we get going next week. But yeah, brilliant night. Sets up Brands Hatch perfectly. Can't wait.
Stuff. Thank you very much, Damien. Thanks to everyone at the British Formula 4 Championship for all of their involvement. It has been a fantastic season so far. It all comes to a close next Monday, 7:30 p.m. UK time. Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Make sure you're there in time to watch what should be a thrilling championship decider. That, though, is about all we have time for, I think, tonight. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We hope you've been enjoying the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. It's been brought to you in association with Year One Racing TV, Alpha Live, and Momentum Social. Thanks to everyone at Year One Racing TV, Graham, our producer, for giving us all of the brilliant footage throughout tonight and the previous race weekend or race meetings as well. Dan Blake, our clerk of the course, and my regular co-commentator, has been as busy as ever tonight. They'll all be back again along with me next Monday night to give you the championship decider, British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. Make sure you're there. A good one.